Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Strahota coming to you with your next lesson with the legislative branch on how a bill becomes a law. Now, very quickly, I do apologize that essentially, since we've gone into virtual learning, all we've really been able to do is PowerPoint slides and notes, guided notes assignments. If we were in person, there are a lot of in class slash in person activities we could do that would have been a lot more hands-on. However, and again, there's nobody who has to apologize for it, but just a matter of the situation is this is essentially the easiest and most doable way of doing the content. So again, if we were in class in person, we would have done a lot more hands-on stuff with a lot of these units. So I just don't want you to think that all I have for you is PowerPoint slides. Again, it's just how it is, and that's okay, and we're making the most of it, but I just wanted to let everybody know that my goal with American government politics here the last 3 months of the school year was not to simply do PowerPoint slides for every single lesson. But again, it is what it is. Anywho, moving on. So we're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. And if you've watched the Schoolhouse Rock YouTube video on how a bill becomes a law, which is pretty old at this point, but again, it is a good representation of how a bill becomes a law. So first of all laws in the United States begin as bills. So they don't simply become laws, they have to be a bill first. And the idea of these may come from a representative or even citizens in communities. They can bring it up to their United States House representatives, and if they like that idea enough, he or she may research this idea and turn it into a bill. Representatives also do research on their own, and depending on the needs of their constituents in their state, they will come up with bills to hopefully help the people who vote them into office come up with a bill or a law that will then better help their people. So here's a visual, and I will go over this step by step, but essentially this is just a one-shot video, or excuse me, a one-shot picture of how a bill becomes a law. So whether it starts in the House or in the Senate, it then moves on and it can get marked up and get edited for feedback, and then once that happens, it gets voted on. And then depending on which side introduces the bill, they then have to vote on it, and then depending on which side started the bill, then gets sent to the other, and then they vote, and then essentially the president would need to either sign off on it or veto it. And if all of these people vote yes and agree to the bill, and then the president signs it, then it has become a law. So there's 4 basic steps. Again, I'll go over this step by step. So if that last slide was a little overwhelming, I'm going to go over it step by step here. So number 1, an introduction. Obviously, the bill is then formally proposed and is made before either the House or the Senate. Then there's step 2, which we have a couple different parts to step 2. So this is step 2A. So there's a committee review, which is a hearing is held up to mark up the bill. And mark up the bill means cross out and make any edits they need to. Maybe there's a line in the bill they don't like and they want to fix it, so they make any edits to it that they need to. Then the bill is sent to the full committee where they vote on the bill after it's been marked up. So an example would be the Committee on the Armed Forces has 7 subcommittees: cybersecurity, sea power, etc. So depending on which committee the bill would need to go to, depending on what topic the bill is being created for, then it gets sent to a committee who specializes in that area to then vote on the bill. And then there's step 2B, so the committee then makes an action. So this is when a subcommittee has completed its work. The bill returns to the full committee, and the full committee may then do 5 things. They can report on the bill favorably with a do pass recommendation. They can report on the bill with an unfavorable recommendation. They can report a committee bill. They can report on the bill in an amended form, meaning that they made some changes to it to be sent back to get re-voted on. Or they can refuse to report on the bill. This is known as pigeonholing, which essentially means they don't really care that much about it to even focus on looking at it. So they just kind of let it die at their feet, and they don't look at it anymore. They don't feel it's worth their time to even correct it. Then there's step 2C, which is the Rules Committee. So they decide whether the bill can be heard, and then they have to put this on the calendar, and whether or not they're open or closed for amendments to this bill. So again, they need to be put on the calendar because people need to come and meet in Washington, D.C. to meet on the bill, as again, sometimes House members or Senate members are back in their home states, so they need to put it on their calendar so they can actually be there to comment on the bill if they need to. Then there's step 3, which if it makes it this far, there's now floor debate and potential passage of the bill. So the House of Representatives have strict rules for debate. They have time limits, so usually each speaker is allotted 5 minutes to speak, and debate total is limited to an hour. Speakers have to be approved ahead of time, and people who offer an amendment must be approved ahead of time. Senate, however, has very few rules for debate, and the bill must pass in each chamber. So the House, much more strict on their debate and passage of bills than the Senate is. Then there's step 3B, which means if the bill is different in one house to the next, it then goes to a conference committee where they all come together. And this single joint committee makes up of members from both the House and the Senate. And they iron out any differences and they create a uniform piece of legislation. So essentially, members from the House, members from the Senate get together in this single joint committee and they make any amendments they need to the bill. So hopefully they agree, can come to an agreement, and then they can try to get the bill voted on once again. And then step 3 is they vote on the bill. And this newer version of the bill gets sent to the House. And you can vote yay or nay, or you can just simply vote present, which means that you're not voting either yes or no, but you saw the bill and you're just choosing not to vote on it. And then you have to put your little card in the slot. Open means it's ready to get the card inserted into the slot, and then you vote either yay for the bill or nay for the bill. Or again, if you don't want to vote yes or no because you're sort of indifferent on the bill, you can vote that you're simply present. And then step 4 is presidential approval. So the president has some options. The president signs it, and now it's a bill, or a law, excuse me. The president can veto it, which means they don't agree with this bill. They veto it, and it has to either go back where it came from to get re-amended again, and then they could potentially send it back to the president. And if they made the proper changes to the bill, then the president might agree with it now and sign it, and then it becomes a law. Or the president can simply do nothing. And in 10 days, if Congress is still in session, the bill becomes a law. So therefore, the president cannot sign it, and then after 10 days, Congress is still in session, the bill then simply becomes a law even without the president's signature. In 10 days, if Congress is adjourned, meaning they're not there, the bill does not become a law, and this is known as a pocket veto. You might ask, well, why would this veto happen? Why would a pocket veto happen? Well, sometimes the president doesn't want to formally look bad by vetoing a bill that they think maybe would be popular amongst the people, but they still simply don't agree with. So if a president vetoes it, they're just flat out saying, I don't agree with this bill whatsoever, and they veto it to get rid of it. A pocket veto is sort of their nice way of rejecting it by saying, look, I didn't veto it. I just simply didn't get to it. So a pocket veto is simply a nice way or a polite way for a president to just simply, oh, I never got around to that, sorry, and then the bill does not become a law. Then there's step 4B. If the president does veto the bill, it's sent back to both houses where it will require a 2/3 majority to override. So again, the president does not have final say. So if both the House and the Senate want to create this bill into a law, even if the president vetoes it, they need a 2/3 majority, and then it can still become a law. This is very difficult to override because the president can usually muster up enough support in his or her party to prevent a 2/3 vote. So, for example, the House of Representatives currently is a majority Democratic candidates, whereas the Senate is a majority of Republican candidates. So if President Trump were to veto a bill, the House might get a 2/3 majority, but the odds of the Senate getting a 2/3 majority are very slim because President Trump is a Republican, the Senate is Republican dominated. So essentially, if this were to happen today, the bill would probably remain vetoed. So there are 12 ways to kill a bill, and this will conclude the notes for today. So the House, you can read through all these. I don't need to read through all 12 of these for you, but this is essentially the way, in one nice slide here, 12 different ways to kill a bill from becoming a law. So hopefully that was a good way for you to figure out how a bill can become a law or how a bill can not become a law. And if I rushed through this a little too quickly, as always, you can, of course, rewind and replay this if you'd like to, or maybe you're just super duper bored and you want to rewatch this over and over and over again. That's wonderful. Make sure you please fill out that guided note sheet as you watch through the recording of the notes here and go through the PowerPoint slides. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. There's a lot of good resources on the internet as well that give some good summaries on how a bill becomes a law as well, including the Schoolhouse Rock video, which if you've never watched that before, I encourage you to go and check it out. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I look forward to hearing from all of you really soon. Thank you.